Howdy folks, welcome. Nice to see you all again. I have something very special that I want to go over. This is the Pentax. Oh my gosh, this is the SMC Pentax-M 55mm aperture 2. This is a lens. This is the lens. I've been trying to get this lens because I believe the focal length equivalent is around like 82 or something, like 82 millimeters. And since it's ASPC, I can't necessarily get an 85 millimeter and it'd be 85. So this would be my 85 millimeter. And so I have reviewed the 50 mil, and now let's review this bad boy. So first off, let's thank God for the ability to take all these amazing photos. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be able to take these amazing photos. So I just want to thank God for that ability. All right, so let's first get into it. So we're going to talk about the 4 different categories. We're going to talk about affordability, we're going to talk about the accessibility, and we're going to talk about the build quality and the versatility of this exact lens. So getting into it, let's talk about the affordability. Dude, for 50 bucks is what I normally see this lens go for, is around 50 bucks. In great condition. I picked mine up for $15 in immaculate condition, except there was some dust in the lens. So thank you eBay, because I took this bad boy apart, cleaned out the dust, and I was good to go. Yes, I love primes. Primes are so easy to take apart. So I am super excited because I did that, and then I started taking some photos with it. But then I had dust on my sensor, so I had to go back and switch that. So anyways, so with that being said, well, you can pick this up for $50. Some copies are going to be 100, some copies are probably going to be 150. For a 55 millimeter on the full frame, or if you want to go with the ASPC, it's around 82, I think. I would give this a 9. It is extremely affordable, but not as affordable as the 50 mil, which would be 75 millimeter equivalent on the full frame, on the ASPC. So the ability to actually pick that up for that price is kind of up there. It's just like, what is your preference? Do you want 75 mil? Do you want 50 mil? What do you want? So that's kind of all comes down to what your preference is. So for that being said, I gave that a 9 for affordability. So next, let's talk about the accessibility of this lens. This lens has a little bit lower score than some of the other ones. This one is a 7, not crazy bad, but for a manual lens. And that's because it has the aperture that you have to control yourself. You cannot set it on aperture priority and then just run and gun. This one, you have to set the aperture yourself. What I highly recommend is always with these manual aperture prime lenses is to always set it to 5.6 and then adjust from there. So if you want something to be darker, lighter, have your shutter speed anywhere from 120 to about 250, and then adjust your aperture from there. You do not want to go all the way up to crazy 1000, shutter speed. Just go ahead and stop it down a little bit, and you should be fine, because you're going to sit there and you're going to take like 20 different pictures and never come up with the right shutter speed, where you could have just clicked it down a couple and you would have been fine. So that's my quick little tidbit on that. So like I said, it's a 7 because if somebody's just picking this up, I'm imagining someone that's barely getting into photography, they pick up this lens, it's going to be extremely easy to throw the focus. The focus is so easy to get, and you get a fantastic focus at f5.6 and up. You're going to get super sharp photos. If you stop it down, you're going to get that beautiful bokeh, and it's going to be really easy to use for that case. But the fact that you have to keep that in mind to adjust your aperture is something that somebody might get caught off guard. But absolutely, it's not a hard lens to use. A professional or an experienced photographer will pick this up and have an absolute breeze with it. The focus throw is easy, and so that's why I give it a 7. So next, let's talk about the build quality. I had mentioned earlier that I took this apart, removed the dust, and put it back together. It is an SMC super multi-coated lens. It is superior, far super, muy elegante. I gave this a 10. It's everything about it is set up perfectly. Like, the build quality is fantastic. There's no looseness of the lenses inside the grouping or inside the lens. The focus throw is super easy. Taking this apart is super easy. Putting it back together is nice and easy. I really like the way it clicks. I like the way it feels. It's nice and heavy. Everything seems to work. And for something that's quite old, at least 30 years old, this is a fantastic lens. The glass is immaculate, some of the best glass out there because it is a SMC. So I gave that a 10 for the build quality. Can't really knock it. So next, well, it's not weatherproof. I have to say that it's not weatherproof. So 9.9, not a 10. 9.9. It's not weatherproof. So that is the one thing about it. There is the ability to get dust on the inside. It's pretty open down here, so there's quite a bit of openness if you look at it down here when it's at its furthest point of focus. But other than that, it is a fantastic build quality. So I should have said that first. So not a 10, it is a 9 because it's not weatherproof. So next we're going to take a look at the versatility of this lens. What can you do with this lens? What can I shoot with this lens? Portraits? Absolutely. Can I do street photography? Yeah, it's great for shooting subjects from a distance. So that is fantastic. Is it good at macro? Yeah, for some reason I really like these SMC prime lenses for macro photography. I want to put a 2x teleconverter on it. As you can see, this one isn't the best. I think the 50 is a little bit better, and some of the 28s are amazing at macro. And then of course you do have the longer, the 35 to 105s, I think are like the absolute best because they have a macro mode on them. But you can get pretty close to your subjects and get a pretty decent macro shot. So macro is street photography, yes. Portraits, yes. Wide angle, no. So that one is going to be, let's see what I put. I think I put an 8 because you can stand at a distance and take photos, but if you're trying to record with this lens, doing videos and stuff like that, like this is a gorgeous example. I was across the street and I was able to get that. I was across the way and I was able to get these amazing photos, but you have to be quite a bit of distance. So that one's a 7/8 on the versatility. I think you can get a lot done. I think this is a fantastic lens to use. I might have a little bit of bias because I really wanted this lens and I really enjoyed the focal length, which it's on almost an 85. So that's something that I really love. That's like one of my preferred focal lengths. So street car photography, it did a fantastic job. Again, this is an example of the macro. It wasn't absolutely super, but it was decent. So can't really knock it. All right, with all that being said, we are looking at an 8 overall for this lens. Would I recommend this lens or would I not? This is a tough one because this is a fantastic, good lens. I really enjoy this lens. I feel slightly biased to this lens. Would I recommend it? Maybe. Maybe. If you do want if you have an ASPC and you want something that's around the 85mm focal length, equivalent to full frame, this would be the lens you pick up. If you just want a good prime lens that's fast and that takes immaculate photos, then you can just go with the 50, the SMC Pentax-A 50mm. That will get you exactly everything you want to do and a little bit better at the macro side of things compared to this 55, which is a little bit harder to use, a little bit harder to find, and it's a little bit more expensive. So that's where I say it's a maybe. For me, I will 100% pick this up over the 50mm. But I think for the vast majority of people, I think the 50mm is absolutely easy to use and has no issues, and also has the auto aperture, so it makes it a little bit nicer to use. And it still has the super coating. It's super inexpensive. I think I literally just sold one of those lenses for like $10. I picked mine up for $10, and I have three copies of the 50mm SMC Pentax H. They're everywhere. So you can always find yourself a decent copy. You can always find parts for it. So with that being said, it's like, moving 5 feet or, a couple meters is the difference between this 55 and the 50. So really that's where it is, where like it's literally up to your preference at this point. Would I recommend it? Yes, like I said, I would recommend this lens if you want that 85mm focal length, if it's on ASPC. Full frame, that's another thing that I gotta try. I haven't tried it on full frame, so when I get a full frame camera, the K1, I'll definitely try that. But that being said, one of my favorite lenses I've ever used so far. I absolutely adore that lens. Super easy. I was giddy with excitement after I took the photos. I was so happy to see them when I got home. The color rendering is beautiful, like you always get from an SMC. Color rendering is gorgeous, so I do really appreciate that. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. Go ahead and feel free to check out any of the other videos. All these photos that I have taken are going to be at the end of this video, and they're all going to be unedited, so you can see exactly what it looks like coming out of the camera. All right, thanks guys. See you later.